In today's video, I've got the QubeStove wood-fired rotating pizza stone pizza oven, and I'm gonna give you my final thoughts on it. Hey, this is Ricer from Dead Broke Barbecue, Wisconsin, and welcome back to the channel. But if you're new here, we try to help you enhance and amplify your backyard barbecue fun. Now, the QubeStove has been a blast, and I really appreciate that I've been a part of this Kickstarter program. Now, I can say I have actually cooked a lot of pizzas and got better at it as I started making more videos using it. Now, QubeStove has actually done a couple modifications to this oven, and I'll let you know throughout this video what they've changed. So grab a bottle of beer and a notepad. We're gonna amplify some backyard barbecue fun. So after running the QubeStove 4 times, I have a few little tips and tricks that I want to share with you. And I'm also going to give you a little bit more of an in-depth review about it. Now, like I've said in my other videos, one thing I'm standing firm on is that this fire pot or rocket stove is incredible. I'm so confident that I can say that this rocket stove or fire pot or burner is the best wood-fired pellet oven in the market as of today. I mean, it's well engineered and built very solid. And if you watched a couple of my earlier videos, you see that I actually have lit this thing up a couple different ways. Now, this is a Kickstarter program, but the construction for just kind of, let's say, being a test model is very good. Now, I have been in contact with QubeStove since the Kickstarter begun, and they asked, is there anything that I've seen on the QubeStove that I feel that should be changed or maybe modified? Now, honestly, there's only a couple things that I see that they need to go ahead and modify. Number one, I'd like to see them get this chimney to be able to fit on a little easier, because right now it's really snug and tight, and you kind of got to get rough with it to get it seated. And you can see that there's a little bit of a gap here, but the chimney's not going anywhere. But in my opinion, make it so it just fits on a little easier. Now, it absolutely doesn't have to go all the way down and touch the top of the stove itself, but it'd be nice if it did. Now, here's our first modification from QubeStove. They've actually redesigned the chimney. You just go ahead and insert it, and it has a locking mechanism, and it'll lock right in place. Now, the door handle, I think that could be modified a little bit. In my opinion, I'd put a screw right through the lid into the handle instead of having it slotted out like that, because it's a little tricky to get on. Now, here's our second thing that they modified. They changed how you hook up the handle. There's only one bolt through the lid into the handle, and it makes it a lot easier to assemble, and it is more stable. Now, my second favorite thing about the QubeStove is obviously the rotating pizza stone. It comes right off, and it's easy just to go ahead and get some of that soot off if you have to. But with that being said, this rotating plate, it needs a little bit of work. You know, you have to go ahead and seat this tight bearing first. Then you put on your bearings or your rollers, and then you put on the loose bearing on the outside. In my opinion, I'd go ahead and have something on the top in between the plate and the bearing where you're supposed to actually push it on. Because on my version, if I go ahead and push this bearing all the way tight, it starts to scrape a little bit inside here. Because this plate is a little bit warped, so then I'm getting a little bit of that wobble on the stone. But I still absolutely love this design, and like I say, there's changes coming from what you see here. But the turn knob, that's heavy duty for sure. Now, the third thing that they modified is probably my favorite. They added a bigger bearing to the bottom of that rotating pizza stone plate. That's gonna make it a lot more stable so we can get rid of some of that wobble when you're cooking. Now, having a thermometer mounted to the outside of this unit is awesome. And it's out of the way far enough where you don't have to worry about bumping into it. Now, the lowered flame deflector, I have seen when I get this thing pretty hot, the bottom of the oven will warp a little bit, and that throws that deflector off just a little, but not enough to actually affect the cook. So it's really not that big of a deal, but I'm thinking if they go ahead and put some type of reinforcement on the bottom of the oven, that'll help that from warping for sure. Now, I really like the leg design, and once you turn them out to that 40 degrees, this thing gets really sturdy on its base. Now, they could go ahead and put some type of little bit of a lip on this channel on the leg though, because it is a little bit sharp. Now, their accessories that they sell along with the QubeStove are built very well. I really like this wooden pizza peel to go ahead and put your pizza in it. And the last tool that I absolutely love, but but I wish it was a little longer, is your actual pick tool. Now it's certainly long enough to open up your pellet hopper, but now where I see that it could be a little handier is when you actually go ahead and you want to stir up some of your pellets in there. This isn't long enough to get down deep into that chute to go ahead and stir up some pellets. So I went ahead and grabbed my fire poker from my fireplace. But the QubeStove came out of the gate for this Kickstarter hot, and it was ready to compete against other outdoor pizza ovens. And I'm really happy that QStoves picked me to be a part of their Kickstarter for the QubeStove, because this thing is gonna have a lot of pizza run through it for sure. Now we'll just go ahead and put our stone back in. And obviously get a little soot on my hands, but it washes off. And then just go ahead and rotate it. And you'll see I have just barely a little wobble on that. And that's really when I push on make pressure on it. But if you just kind of leave it, it'll spin, it'll spin. But that's an easy fix, and I'm sure that that's being addressed already. Now I'm just gonna take the ashtray out and then we'll look in the back so you can see why I'm telling you we need a little bit bigger poker. Now obviously it's no problem to go ahead and open up the hopper. And if you look down there, that's where your little fire grate is. And this tool can't reach it. Now it's not the end of the world, but you can see that this longer tool, I can reach all the way down on there and scrape across it. So it doesn't have to be this big, but it certainly would be nice if it was at least this long, because then you can get right down on top of that fire grate and scrape out your pellets if they're starting to jam up. Now you might be asking, how do the pellets actually jam up? You're just dumping them right on top. Well, there's moisture inside those pellets, and then they start to actually kind of weld up as they're cooking. And this way, if you got something this long, you can just kind of stir them up and get that fire rolling again, because you will see that your fire is starting to get snuffed out. And that's when I came up with the idea that they need a little bit longer poker, because I was starting to get a little bit of a damming effect, and I had to go ahead and give it a push, and then they just broke free and fell right on that grate, and that flame came back immediately.
Now finally, the last thing that they did to modify the QubeStove to date is they made it so you can open up that hopper door a little bit easier. My guess, maybe they added a handle to that so you can pull it back also.
Now the QubeStove, to go ahead and break it down after you're done using, is really simple. It's as easy as the assembly itself. And if you haven't seen my assembly video, check the card above, and that'll take you right over to the video and you can learn even more about the QubeStove. I actually have a playlist, so make sure you check that out also. And one thing that I learned about using the pellets without a fan pushing any type of temperature control or anything like that is that certain pellets actually burn a little hotter than others. You're gonna wanna make sure that you're using some type of hardwood pellet and not your fruit blends. In the 3 cheese pizza test video, I actually used cherry pellets, and I could only get the oven on the temperature gauge up to 750 degrees, and the stone maxed out at 850. So just make sure that you're buying hardwood like oak pellets, and that'll probably give you the hottest oven. But because the QubeStove doesn't actually have a dampening system on it, I learned that maybe using some cherry pellets, if I want to keep that temperature down, it's not really that bad of an idea. But if you're gonna wanna go hot, you're gonna wanna go with some type of hardwood. So if you're interested in getting your very own QubeStove, check the links below. Trust me, I really enjoy using this outdoor rotating pizza stone oven. I mean, you're kidding me. It's got a rotating pizza stone, and it cooks a good homemade pizza in about 2 minutes, and that's what really is the exciting part. And a whole scoop of pellets like this will last at least 15 minutes. And you can cook a lot of pizzas in a hurry because you can just sit there and turn it, and you don't even have to take off the lid, so you're not losing any temperature in your oven. And that gives everyone ample time to make sure that they have their pizza ready so they can get it in the QubeStove. Man, look at the sky. That is a picture-perfect night for making pizza.
If you like this video, give it a thumbs up and become a subscriber. Turn on that notification bell because you don't want to miss my next video. I know you don't, because you never know what I'm gonna be bringing to the channel next. But I appreciate you watching, and I'll see you in the next video.